pretty sharp, I'll say, that it's largely driven by that Exit 1 development. To give you an idea, within that agreement, their future water demand can range from 0.6 to 1.6 million gallons a day. In 2021, you produced 1.4 million gallons a day from your aquifers. So it could as much as double your water demands when that development is complete. And so we got all this pulled together and put some forecasts together for you. And these are what those look like. This is the water forecast. Everything you see here in gray is your existing system. So that's 2021 data. And then in the near-term scenario, we add to it all those developments. And everything from the Exit 1 side is what you see in blue. There's two shades of blue for phase 1 and phase 2, and you can see it's as much and over again as your existing demands, because at city's instruction, we went with the highest value that was in the annexation agreement to be conservative. And what we see in the water system is that it's getting a little close to your permit capacity, but it's okay. It's very close. It's a little uncomfortably close, but you can do it. And this is if all that stuff builds out at the capacity that it conceivably could. So this is a conservative estimate, but your water system seems okay if all that stuff builds out. The big challenge with the water system is just where you supply that water, and we'll touch on that a bit. If you get to long-term, if total build out, you would need more capacity, and you would need more permit capacity from the state to supply that. Wastewater was the bigger challenge. If you note here in the water system, you have 5 million gallons a day, average day, of permit capacity. In the wastewater system, you have 4.5. That's 4 million gallons a day at the Point Peter plant and 0.5 million gallons a day at Scrubby Bluff, which is being brought back online. And because of that I&I component, the inflow and infiltration, you'll note that the gray block here, the base flows are higher than for the water system. And so you've got a higher base and a lower ceiling. So you just have less headroom here. And so even if we just added the Exit 1, that would trigger you doing something else. You would need to expand your plants. And so the capital improvement plan has an expansion in it for the Point Peter plant, and that's the bulk of the cost in the CIP. And once we get out to build out, an additional expansion is needed. So we built models, just for time's sake, I won't dwell on this slide, but using that GIS information that we updated for you, we built hydraulic models for your water and wastewater systems.
Which we
and
have.
So,
We have.
yes, you have them.
Thank you.
So for the water system, the network is actually okay. You have a good distributed system where you're getting water from multiple places instead of all in one place. That makes it resilient. In the near term, we did find that to supply Exit 1, you need something over there, just for the sake of fire flows. It's at the end of a long dead-end 12-inch line, and you can't put new demand there without negatively affecting fire flows. So we did have a recommendation for a new well and treatment plant over there, and that is already happening. So that's there, and it's in the capital improvement plan, but with no cost associated with it because it's already happening. Long term, we saw a need for another plant over on the north side. There's a lot of vacant space on the north side of town where we feel like development could happen in the future, a lot of dense development. So we put a new well and treatment plant on the north side to support that. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of recommendations in the water system. The wastewater system requires the most improvements for all the reasons I've already noted. And so the CIP will focus heavily on that. We have the recommissioning of Scrubby Bluff in there, but again, like the water plant, no cost associated with it because that's already happened. And then beyond that, that's not big enough to carry the flow from this build out at the Exit 1 site, so we had to put a pump station there that carries the excess flow across town and then take it to Point Peter. We could not put it in the existing sewer anywhere nearby without having to call for big upgrades to all that existing sewer. And so we kept it dedicated, worked on this with Bobby. We kept it dedicated to Point Peter, and we put a pump station there that carries all the flow to Point Peter and expanded Point Peter. And so here are the capacity-driven projects, and you can see the big driver is right here, the wastewater and near-term Group A. And so that is the CIP. Near-term Group A is the highest priority projects in the near-term analysis. And the vast majority of this is in 2 projects. It's in upgrading Point Peter, which is a $79 million project. And it's in that lift station that carries the excess flows to Point Peter, which is a $35 million project. And that's, I did a double take when I saw the cost the first time, but we have back-checked and back-checked on the costs. And that's kind of a post-COVID reality. We are now seeing wastewater treatment costs in the realm of $20 to $40 per gallon, when it used to be more like 7 to 10 before COVID. And that's just kind of the reality that we're living in now for treatment. So, any questions so far?
We're doing good.
Okay,
Thank you.
For sake of time. That takes us to the revenue sufficiency evaluation. So what can we do with all these costs? We did a cost model on this, and the challenge of that much growth within 5 years is that there's going to be a gap between when the costs show up, when y'all have to provide the infrastructure to support this growth, versus when you recover it. Because, say you build the infrastructure and you can supply exit 1, it's not going to fill up and hit that maximum demand right away. The customers are going to take years to show up, and it's the customers that bring the water sales and the connection fees that help you recover those costs. And when you have this rapid of a growth, that gap between cost and recovery is what stretches you. And so we have, in this situation, we're more than doubling the system demand in 5 years, and 90% of that demand was major developments. It's not infill with, say, vacant parcels. There's a lot of vacant parcels over at Cumberland Harbor. Those are in there. Those are in the near-term forecast, but the vast majority of the near-term demand growth was based on these drawings that were provided by the city that said, 400 units here, 200 units here. That's a lot, 90%. So if they're going to drive your system to grow that fast, how do we fund this? At the second batch of bullets you see, this was some stuff we worked on with Bobby. At city's direction, we made absolutely no changes to water rates. We did increase the capital recovery fees, but we can't just raise them as much as we want. Legally, they have to be tied to the actual cost of connecting to the water main. So we assumed that those inflate over the 5 years of our model. For developer agreements, we assumed that each major development pays its share. So if it's 10% of the growth, it pays 10% of the CIP cost. We did that for all the developments except Exit 1, because their agreement does not include any developer participation in it. And then the aid to construction fees are the one thing that's left that we have some flexibility then to increase to try to close the funding gap. And your aid to construction fees, I believe they're in the realm of about $16.50 per gallon per day, and haven't been updated in several years. And so that was what we adjusted for the cost model.
Can I just skip on down to the adjustment? Yeah.
With the adjustments that we made, I won't go through showing the gap, but to get the gap closed, we had to do that 22% increase to capital recovery fees, which is just inflation based, and then we had to more than triple the aid to recovery fees to close the gap under this scenario, which is a pretty strong adjustment. But I think that speaks to the gap between when this growth can happen and when you can start to recover these fees. And so key takeaways that come away from this is your water system has relatively adequate capacity. Your wastewater system by far needs the most improvements, including treatment expansions. And we would pair that up with targeted I&I reduction. It's very difficult to quantify how much I&I reduction you get. You have to see it after you do the stuff, but that would buy you time. And financially, the biggest recommendations we have are developer agreements, as much as you can. Any of these developers that are coming and saying, we want to grow by this much in your system, then they need to help, they need to participate. and help you grow, because there's a gap between when they build their stuff and when the customers actually show up that help y'all recover these costs. And for Exit 1, it is the driver. It is driving the bulk of this growth. We know that there's no developer participation in that agreement, but there is a range of demands in their agreement from about 0.6 to 1.6 million gallons a day. The sooner you can get that refined, get a forecast of what they're really going to need, the sooner you can settle on what you really need to build. What's in this plan is the most conservative scenario. If they took the highest that was limited by their agreement. If it's a lower number than that, then this can be reassessed with lower costs. And that is it. That is my last slide.
All right. All right.
Good job.
Robbie, do you want to, I'm sorry, we got some questions, but I'd like, if I could, first to get Mr. Horton, do you have a synopsis comment or anything for everybody here?
I think that was a very good presentation. Thank you. for
Yes,
that.
thank you.
We there is a lot of moving parts to all the developments currently, and they're not wrong in what they're saying. Exit 1, we're aware of that. Have been aware of that. We knew what was going on there, and those are some of the costs that were included in those calculations for Exit 1. So that's part of that moving ball. And again, as was just mentioned, once we refine what the actual need is there, that's when we're getting there. We're getting close on that.
Well, I think from a working perspective, we've been waiting for quite a while to be able to have a utility master plan like this, and obviously it gives us the tool set now to go figure out, well, what can we obviously manipulate to be able to meet the demand, but at the same time make sure we're financially
Right.
whole. So, for everybody here and that might be looking. So we have a lot of work sessions to go through internally and then among the council to be able to start figuring out where we're going to end up and how soon do we have to do that. So it's a great starting point. It's a little daunting, absolutely, but it's just going to take work on the part of everybody on staff, our experts and consultants and engineering groups that are helping us. And also, we may be back to Freeze and Nichols for some thought processes also. So thank you, Freeze and Nichols.
Thank you.
Robbie, I'll hand it back to you unless, Council, do you have something question-wise?
No question, just quick comment, very comprehensive plan, and as the mayor said, the CIP portion is extremely helpful, would help us to prioritize, and obviously we need to strategize on how we tackle it. So thank you for this presentation.
They have provided us with some excellent tools, both the CIP and the modeling in itself.
Okay.
It's not a
Good.
picture, it's actually a model. Currently, Volkert has that.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
Running through those things for us. And it's a fantastic tool, and that's the big thing that we get out of this.
Okay.
And we do have a lot of work ahead of us to figure this out and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my comment would be the same. It's an excellent tool. We've got to get obviously a lot deeper into it to better understand some of that. The I&I really looks to be a fairly significant problem that we should get after right away in this. I know we worked on this once, probably about 10 years ago, trying to reduce it. In fact, Mr. Canning out there helped develop some paper that helped us achieve some of that. So that's something we can go back and take a look at and make sure that we've got the obvious things taken care of right away. So thank you.
We do appreciate what Freeze and Nichols has done for us. And thank y'all so much for everything. And I just wanted to get that part
Well,
done.
a lot of work by the staff to get to this point. It's been a long time coming, for sure. And so
Thank you, Robert.
as far as to recap, just where are you folks based out of?
Right here, we're in Duluth, Georgia, just northwest, or sorry, northeast of Atlanta. Our main office is over in Marietta on the northeast side, right next to the Braves Stadium.
We also have an office in Jacksonville, Florida, so we're not too far from you guys.
Oh,
Ah, good.
all right.
Good,
Very
good news.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here got a comment? Okay. Are we good? All right.
Before you lose, I'm sorry, are they going to stay here for a public question? Can they answer a public question?
One. Why don't you just come, you got one question, Tom, please? Because it is a work session, but I'll allow it. Come
I thought it
in.
was advertised that it was a public, all right, let me just ask and then you.
Yeah.
All right,
Can y'all hear?
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
All
okay.
right. If I'm allowed, two items. One, first, years ago, it was recognized that we had a significant amount of water that we were making but not selling. So there was loss due to a whole list of things, whether it be fire hydrant flushing or mismanagement or uncounting or whatever. Was that recognized in your study, and did you reconcile the difference between the amount of water being made every day and the amount of water being billed every day?
it was 11%.
So,
And
Mike's-
yes, that is in the forecast. That's one of the first things we do when we're building a model, a water model like we did for you. We try to get all the water demands loaded out where we know they are. And so we map out the billing data, and we actually have another GIS layer that shows where all the customers are and how much water they took in 2021. And so that goes into the model so that we're pulling water through the system in all the right places. But you've got to add a little bit to that because that's not all the demand in your system. There's also the stuff that you're talking about. There's, recycled flows to the plant, hydrant flows. And so we have to take that extra as we look at how much water you pumped into your system versus how much you got paid for. And with our baseline data, which was based on 2021, that was 11%.
all right, so there's
And
11%.
it's pretty typical practice. Unless you have a really high number, we usually just keep that fixed. And so that 11% was in all the forecasts all the way through. So we're essentially saying you'll maintain it.
Okay,
And I'll add to that and say that that's a pretty typical number.
Yeah.
It's a pretty much an industry standard. I'd say 10, right around that 10 or 11% is about as good as you can get. So I'd say if there was issues in the past, they've been healed.
that's good to hear. The other quick question
I'll
from
give you one
me.
earlier today in the water audit day that's publicly available at the EPD website if you want to see it. I found one that was over 30%. So
Thank you. Regarding the I&I, I got from your comments that you believe the most contributing factor to the I&I is water intrusion into the sewer system through damage or failure or something like that. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
yeah, through
Okay.
just deteriorated pipe. The older it gets,
Yeah.
the more deteriorated it gets.
That's understandable. Okay, the question is, did you evaluate, recognize any other contributing factors, whether it be intentional or unintentional, at the residential or the commercial level, or design of the drainage pipes? I know when we really have high-level water, they actually flood over top of that and drain into the sewer system. So I don't know, but I'm wondering whether there's any recognition of either residential or commercial intentional actions or unintentional by design that is contributing stormwater into the system. Thank you.
The short answer is no. We didn't evaluate that. The longer answer is that you produced 1.4 million gallons a day of water in 2021, the baseline data, and you treated 2 million gallons a day at the treatment plant. So, that 1.4, that includes that non-revenue water that we talked about. So the actual amount of customer demand is even.
Good? Start? All right. All right, Mr. Horton, I'm going to let you close.
Thank you, guys. Again, we appreciate your time on a Friday afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your attention to the details, and we'll certainly get into it. Thank you for citizens to come. That concludes our presentation.
All
Mr. Mayor.
right, so with that, I'm going to close this utility master plan work session for City of St. Mary's for June 14th, 2024. Thank you, everyone, online and here in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you.